Hello, I'm Kylie Olson and welcome to Life in Six Strings. Now, I haven't done this for a while. I've just usually gone straight into my chat with my guest. But I just wanted to come on and say thank you to everyone that's subscribed to the channel and watching all these interviews. I appreciate it so much. You can't believe. So if you haven't subscribed, then please do. Again, it absolutely makes my day. So yeah, all you have to do is press the button below, subscribe, because I have so much more amazing stuff coming up very soon. There's some exciting things happening with the show, which I should be able to reveal soon. But in the meantime, my guest this week is known as the Fuzz Lord. He's an insane player. He messes around with lots of pedals and effects and just gets this really amazing kind of vintage sound. He's with a band called Rival Sons. So please welcome the amazing Scott Holiday. So tell me about the new record. It's called DARKFIGHTER, but then there's another one that's coming out in June, and then you've got the second part of that, which is called Lightbringer, which is coming out, I think you said autumn sort of time. Why the two records, and kind of what was the creative process of that? Like, was it that because I just wonder, like, did you record all the songs just randomly and then work out which ones goes on which record, or did you record them or write them as two individual records?
It'd be so much cooler probably to say that we wrote every song in order with a plan to do two records. But the truth is, it's much more like you've put it, where you can't you can't really command creativity. I don't know, maybe some people can. You can't really, you kind of are, and especially in the beginning, tugged around by it a little bit more. Like you kind of feel like this is where my hands want to go, where my heart wants to go, where my voice wants to go. I'm gonna go with that for a minute and trust it, and then let it kind of open up. And once that's happening, I can kind of guide things at that point. So we just wrote songs. Me and Jay traded a lot of songs, more than ever during this process. And after we recorded a whole bunch, and it was weird how we did it. We normally will go in and just record and finish a record in 30 days. We're on the road so much through our career that it'd be like road. We need a new record. Go out, record the record for 30 days, and back on the road. And you're jumping between the state and Europe, and gosh, we did South America, and on and on. This time, obviously, since we have the pandemic, we actually got to really focus to where we passed songs back and forth, worked in our own studios, and then would only get maybe a week. Our producer, Dave Cobb, was really intense about regulating everything. And before we even came to the studio, there would be a guy testing everybody out front. People were in masks still in the studio, and we only worked for a week. So we worked for a week. Nothing's really getting done so much. It's just getting started, and then bring everything home, and then finish that stuff at home, do a bunch of recording at home. And then also we're writing still at home. So we pass stuff back and forth, and we can kind of have that refractory period where we're looking at what we've done. And kind of, like I said, now we can kind of control a little bit where we want to go, oh, okay, I see how this is unfolding here. Then go back to Nashville for a week and record, or kind of tighten things up.
Yeah.
Then come back, have that refractory period, and 4 months would go by. We can't get in for 4 months in the middle of our recording, and then do the same thing. And this went on and on like this for the better part of 2 years. It's crazy for us. That's not how we make records, but it allowed us to create a bed of work that by the time we were done, that's it. That's all the songs. We wrote things in the last minute. We wrote things on the spot. We covered everything we wanted to write. What do we have? Let's narrow it down. There's got to be one record here. And then you can kind of feel the theme inside the record. There it is.
Right.
That's comfortable. This is what's happening here. And emotionally, musically, and lyrically. But when we did that, we're not precious. We kill songs. Get out. Bye. We do this all the time. This one, we had more stuff that wanted to stay than would fit on one record. And more importantly, there seemed to be very two clear-cut feelings. There seemed to be a theme where half the material seemed to kind of cast a shadow. And there seemed to be half of the material that kind of cast light on that shadow. And that was just how it felt. Like, wow, yeah, half of this is kind of like the pulling down of the divisive nature of what we've gone through and emotional struggle and difficulty, not just based on the pandemic, but even some of Jay's personal stuff. But there was a funneling down to a sound of emotion. And like I said, the other side, it was clear. This side actually is illuminating and kind of like, we've always half joked that we're a band of hope. Like, that's how our band is. We have hope. And if you listen to our records, it will always almost end with some big move of love or hope, That's just what we like. That's what we are,
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's because you recorded it over such a long period that there was a lot going on at that time. And there was, like you say, a lot of dark in the beginning, and then you had the hope towards the end. So maybe that's why. And also you got to spend so much time actually recording a record. So it's a luxury.
Got to become a lot more focused. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's fantastic for you, I think. I think it's a great record, definitely. So I can't wait to hear what the second one's like. I love it.
Can't wait to share. Yeah, we're really excited. It's great to have everybody appreciating DARKFIGHTER and know that we have Lightbringer in the can. This wasn't like leftover tracks. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's good to hear. And then, of course, Dave Cobb back behind the desk again. He's your go-to man. It's like, I guess, because you are a band that are like literally, you say, on the road. Your whole career, you've been on the road, which is in a way how a band should be. You should be out there playing shows. You should be honing your craft. That's kind of what it's about, and it makes you the band that you are. And Dave Cobb captures that, doesn't he? I mean, you work with him, so you could. But for me, when I think about, I'm told how Dave works, it's kind of like the perfect producer for you to try and capture that magic.
To the point of bands should be on tour, just the common sense that when you're on tour, you're always playing. When you're always playing, you're connecting, kind of learning the insides and outs of the band and the players and how to work together, working to your strengths, learning how to support each other, all this kind of stuff. Also, if you have material, you're learning new stuff about the material you would never learn. You learn about all the hidden corners in the song and the symbiotism between an audience and a band, the symbiotism between the band as well, but also between the audience. Like, oh, they like that. That works with them. That thing we do on that pre-chorus always lights them up, or that bridge, they go crazy. That feels good to them. Or this little melody, it's emotional for everyone live. It works. It translates. And you don't know that. You don't know in a room. You don't know in a rehearsal room. You don't know in a studio. You know in front of an audience. So that's cool. And then as far as working with Dave, capturing it, it's almost like the opposite kind of contradictory answer, where Dave is very good at creating things in the moment, like off the jump. So I've worked with Dave since 2006 or something. It's so wild. I can't even believe it. And I've done every record with this band with him. And what really drew me to him, besides we're the same age, we had a similar musical pedigree or interests, and kind of agreed on what rock and roll was important and what needs to happen with rock and roll now. But he ended up doing this thing with me where he wanted to automatic write, and that was different. I had a collection of songs that I brought in to work on, and he was like, yeah, these are good songs. Let's just try something off the floor. And I had never done that. And I thought, this is the worst idea I've ever heard. Studio time costs money. I don't want to work off the floor. I don't know. We're going to work all day. to like throw it in the garbage at the end of the day, like, because it's not good, because we don't know, because I have stuff I know is good. And he trusts his skill and craft. And really, that's what he's doing, talking people into trusting their skill and their craft and their instincts. And I had never worked like that. And that was a long time ago. And I produce bands now and have for years. And that's also one of my ethos that I learned, because it was very eye-opening, and it showed something very automatic and intrinsic in us as artists. It may not be for everyone, but I've worked with several young bands and done it too. And it's interesting what comes out. And besides all of his other myriad of skill and penchant for great equipment, this is something I find particular to him. And he just has a great instinct and a way to keep things alive and exciting in the room.
Yeah, he's a good find.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. He'd only done Shooter Jennings when I met him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm good because, like you say, you worked with him like in some of your first bands that you did, which is insane.
Well, I started with him on this band, but it was before. I mean, technically, it wasn't this band, but it was me and Miley.
Yeah, that's it. I remember.
Yeah, it was an early incarnation of like us basically getting to Rival Sons, you know? So there was one record where we got to make with me, Miley, and our old bass player, Robin, and another singer, a lovely guy who just wasn't the right fit, but we made basically Before the Fire with Dave Cobb.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So the new record, as far as your guitar playing goes, I heard you say something about it, like how you approached it as far as that goes, playing the guitar and stuff on it. I think you described it as like a musical movement. Can you elaborate on that?
Well,
you're like, I don't remember saying that.
I say all sorts of stuff, don't I?
Yeah.
I will I'll work off that, and I'll just work with how I'm like approaching this record. And how I'm looking at guitar in general. I mean, I love the guitar. I like a lot of textural players. Mm-hmm. Like if I think of somebody like Andy Summers, okay. Like right now, I love Julian Lage. I love so many guitar players. I'm not going to run a list here right now, but what I love about the guitar is not always the typical thing. It's not always the typical thing. It's not always like the guitar is such a pop-a-wheelie instrument. Like how fast, how many of the notes. Everybody wants to see everyone play all of the notes. Yeah. And for me, I'm really turned off when that happens. Mm-hmm. When it gets too blues dog, burning up all the notes, for me, it's not for me. Like, that's not why I like the guitar so much. Don't get me wrong. I like a good guitar solo, and I play a whole bunch of them. But I like guitar and find it particular that how it can be a very colorful, textural, sparse instrument, and it can be very effectively used that way. And I think I got to employ this technique a lot on this record. It's not like even some of the best riffs ever, 2 notes, 3 notes. It's the simplest thing. I've always employed that idea. And just sometimes you've heard this idea that where you don't play is just as important or more important where you do play.
Yeah.
It's the push and the pull in the parts that we're all doing, the space you create. So when you come back, the voice is important and people want to listen to it, you know? So this approach was used heavily on this record. And sometimes it's more about texture and color, like painting, than it is about like guitar parts, you know?
Here
like
it comes, kind of thing. I'm coming at you, yeah.
Yeah. It's not, and it's still a super guitar-y record. It's plenty of fun if you're a guitar player and you're a kid and you want to play the parts. It's chock full of riffs. That's just in my blood, and it's what Rival Sons is. It's intrinsic to us. But if you look at like tracks like Dark Side, Horse's Breath, and really any section, you know, any certain section of every song on the record, there's a lot of textural playing. and supportive playing, songs where I felt I could just paint in sections for Jay, where the voice will happen and I just need to splash in here to support kind of what's happening and try to make an atmosphere or mood in there. And it's cool. It's fun.
Yeah.
And I feel that, like, from my favorite artists. When I hear that, I feel like this is great. I love this. So I got to employ a lot of that with this record. And I'm proud of that. I hope people enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, there are some great guitar solos on the record as well. I mean, yeah, it's very, there's a lot of texture in there. It's great. It is great. And
let's face it, sometimes you have to pop a wheelie. Sometimes the song is just crescendoing in a way that a wheelie is needed. So here it comes.
Yeah, I'm just like, what one had, there is one that you've released. I was watching the 3 videos today, actually, the ones that you've released so far. Is it Bird in the Hand? Which one's the one with the where Jay gets on the stage with all the blood on his face?
Oh, no, Nobody Wants to Die. Sure.
Nobody Wants to Die. That's got a killer freaking guitar solo in it.
It gets loose. It's erratic. It needed that.
Yeah, because the whole song is, the lyrics are just, like you say, erratic. Everyone's losing control. And yeah. Certainly cool. And the music videos are insane. I love that. So your son, so they're kind of all connected, aren't they? Rapture, Bird in the Hand, and then Nobody Wants to Die.
They are. Yeah.
And I heard your son is in the first video. He's the kid on the motorbike going throughout the whole thing that delivers the...
That one is second. So it's Nobody Wants to Die, and then Rapture, and then we just released Bird in the Hand. And Devendra is the lead in Rapture. Yeah.
Is it his birthday today?
He's 16 today.
I can't believe I know that. Do you know what's really weird? I'm not like some creepy stalker. I was watching some interviews that you were doing, and I think you were doing one with what's the pedal, the one where you go through your gear. I can't
I did one in Sweden like that.
It's the American guy. It's the American.
It's an old thing. It's like an older thing.
And weirdly enough, that interview, you said it's my son's birthday. That interview happened to be on the 5th of May. I mean, it was years ago, and I was like, oh no, hey.
Really?
Really strange. So yeah. Oh, that's his 16th day. Oh, nice.
It's so crazy. It's so wild. And this band has been happening his whole life.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like because Rival Sons isn't like a much more well-known, larger, massive Metallica type of band, or we have these illusions of grandeur. Of course, when you do music for a living, that's what you see.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with
ego.
I'm happy with the success we've achieved. I'm happy with the body of work we've created and all of our fans. I'm happy with everything. But I think maybe because we're still digging, we're still working, we're still pulling from the deepest parts of us and making our best record. Like there's no part of me, not even 1/8% that would go back and say, Pressure in Time, we had it. That's what we're trying to re-get again. Like you hear a lot of people say, it never got better than Zeppelin 1. That's the best record they made. Or you'll hear people say this about bands' first records. There is no way, unless you're so niche, you're so like, I only like this, that you could say that about our band. Like, it is so clear that we have grown and created a journey out of the career and released a better album and something that's like smarter, more toneful. We're playing better. The songs are much better. And not to say that our early records are bad. It's just that there's clearly a journey and a development in the form and in the craft. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know that everybody could say that. I think I'm not sure. Maybe everybody would say that. Hopefully they would. At least they would feel that way.
Maybe not, because maybe like, you have that Zeppelin one, or you mentioned like someone like Metallica or something. You hit that huge high and it's like, now where do you go kind of thing. Like you still got the fire in your belly. You still want to aspire to hit that crazy high, but you've like you say, carved out a fantastic career from what you do. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe once you get to the top, maybe it's not all that. Because where'd you go from there?
Yeah, and I wonder if once you have, I don't want to keep picking the same bands, but once you have a record that's there, we've sold 50 million records. This was the moment that everyone saw us, that we made a gajillion fans, that we're like a household name. We're Tupperware now. We're like maybe that is it creatively, and now you're just kind of like following that up. You know what I'm saying? You're following it up. It's a means to an end because you want to get back on tour and sell out more stadiums and arenas. So it's a means to an end. We still want to make records. You know what really trips me out? I'm just going to bring this up because it's interesting. I want to see what you think.
Yeah.
You're probably friends with some of these guys too. I'm friends with the guys in Guns N' Roses. They're wonderful people. They're like the most wonderful, down to earth, great, like for being what they were, like a pretty psychotic, abusive, a band on drugs, a drunk band. And they were my favorite then too, by the way, as a young kid. But they're so adjusted and so like down to earth and cool. Anyway, I don't want to kick them in the nuts per se, but how about they get together? They have the biggest tour on earth and they don't record. Like they have the greatest band. These guys are like unreal. I know Rich isn't Izzy, but Richard is ridiculous. Like an incredible guitar player, producer. Frank is an incredible drummer. These are lovely people to like hang with. Isn't it weird that they don't record still?
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering why. Is it that one, they've got the fear? I mean, oh, there we go. We've got another guest on the show.
All right.
Maybe it's that, after Chinese democracy, all right, that wasn't the whole band, like you say. Maybe
no, that doesn't count because that wasn't like Slash.
I know, I agree with you, but maybe it's the fear. I don't know. Or maybe it's that when you get to that age and you've done everything they've done, maybe they haven't got anything else to say. The hunger's not there. I don't know.
That is so weird. That is so weird to me. So I don't want to sit on this topic, but this is, I guess, what I'm getting to. We are not there. That's not what DARKFIGHTER is. That's not what Lightbringer is. There's no resting on laurels. There's no means to an end, so we can get on the road and struggle our asses off to be on the road, like barely cutting it to be able to play it for people. This band, although has grown, we still have a lot of fire in our belly, and we'll still take losses to grow the show and make the show more beautiful for everyone and bigger and more exciting and bring that experience to people. I think this idea of the journey, this idea of that's where it's really at. I think it's really become a valuable lesson because I haven't become a billionaire, because we're not filling stadiums on our own. It forced me to have to look at like real stuff.
It keeps
the real stuff
on the ground. It keeps you on the ground. And I'm wondering as well, like, maybe it's because it's about being creatively honest as well. And like, I think I would hope that even you guys as band, like if you say you did 50 million records or whatever, would you then try to top that? Or would you go to yourself, do you know what? We're just going to keep evolving as a band. We're going to put out the record that we want to put out. Who cares if it sells 50 million records again? It's going to be where we are creatively right now. I think that you are like that as a band. And I reckon that you would be like that. I don't know. Maybe that's
unquestionably, that's where we come from. That's where, especially Jay and myself, that's where we come from artistically. It's never. I think we saw an interview recently where David Bowie talks about you should never look to the audience for where your creativity should be, something to that degree. Yeah. And it's not to spite them. It's recognizing our natural relationship. Our relationship isn't, we don't look to you for inspiration for what you want. You've always looked at us.
Yeah.
So, if we start looking at you like, oh, maybe, everyone really likes that big riff thing and where you scream really big, we should probably do that. It's like,
Do it
that's
100
not it.
times again on every record.
We've
Boring.
never done that. We'll never do it. And it's because it is not the natural relationship. So sometimes we will lose people. This record may lose people. I expect it to lose a couple people because we have grown. And when you grow, you challenge the audience. You challenge them in a way that, like, man, I like that Get What's Coming track, or I liked when they did like Secret. I like when they were a dirty rock band, and I don't hear that on this record. And you lose people along the way, and that's okay. That's what do they say? You're gonna break a few eggs when you're baking something. I don't know, but
Okay.
you know what I mean.
I do know exactly what you mean. And they come back again anyway, I guess, like at the end of the day, they should respect you as an artist. And like you say, that you should be allowed to be creative and kind of do where you are in the moment kind of thing.
Not only allowed, you should absolutely, everybody should be doing that to the furthest reach of their ability, because that's inspiring. We can always feel artists that we love reaching and pushing, and for some reason that puts our hair back. It's exciting. You can feel it in painting. It's like when you look at like Van Gogh. I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure you've seen him in galleries and stuff, and you've read the story of how he gets the paint and where his mind was with it. And these are all it's like pop art now. Like, we're so familiar with it. But when you hear how romantic it was for him to chase the color and what he was going for, it becomes emotional, and this is exciting. He's pushing the boundary of color and perception and what should go on that canvas, and we can feel that in all of our art. So we should all be doing that. Don't be afraid to lose. Do something wild that you're compelled to do with your heart, and then do that. And you're going to find a distilled, wonderful audience, I think, at that point.
Yeah, just like you say with Bowie, imagine that. We would have never had Ziggy Stardust if it had taken that approach to just doing what he thought his audience wanted. So.
Right. Somebody who was so evolving. It's just unbelievable, record to record. You could feel him chasing his muse,
Yeah, definitely. So let's take you back to the beginning then. Let's go to, a young Scott hanging out on the beach, which you still are today, which I like. Kind of what were you like? What was it? Where were you kind of musically? Like, when did you get into playing the guitar?
I liked music from a really young age. I was drawn into listening because my parents were rock and roll people. Music was around me. I started wanting to play the guitar, I think probably around 9 or 10, thinking about it.
Yeah.
And had a nylon guitar, a Spanish guitar around the house, probably around 10, 11. And then at 12, I was given my first electric guitar and an amp and started to really play. So like 12 years old, I picked it up, took a few lessons, and that's really it. Maybe like a couple months of lessons, one a week, and then never had lessons again. And just kind of constantly picked up the guitar, had music books around, stacks of guitar magazines, learning like little lessons in there and songs in there. And really from a young age, probably 13 years old, 12 years old even, probably started writing. I had like little cassettes, 2-track cassettes where I had ideas, putting little ideas down. And by 13, 14, playing with other people, playing in the garage. Music I listen to, the usual suspects. You can hear them on my sleeve now, because this is what I listen to, what my parents listened to for the most part, for guitar. And this probably has a lot to do with why I wanted to play. I've had to think about it. And my folks they were young parents, and they would have parties, and uncles would come out and their friends. And like my mom and her husband, they lived in the desert on the bank of the Mojave Riverbed. So everybody had off-road vehicles, buggies and motorcycles, and they would come for the weekend and party all weekend, and they would party through the night. And I noticed at a very young age that the centerpiece of their partying and hanging out was always good records, good music, and everybody would sing. And Zeppelin, Rush, you know, Beatles, Floyd, Stones, like all these, like the royalty of rock would be on. A lot of soul music, stuff like that, even heavier stuff, 80s stuff. It was just always like party music. And I think I just wanted to, I think like subliminally, I might have felt like I see how this is the centerpiece of their happiness, and I want to contribute and I want to be part of that. You know, so I dug through their record collections early on and found cassettes of Hendrix and Zeppelin, and then kind of followed back the Cream and the Yardbirds and followed that back to immediately as a kid, like, who are these guys emulating? Clearly this is not their thing. And found the blues. And even to the point of cutting my own slides in the garage. My stepdad was a machinist and had like lots of tools and goodies. I remember I didn't even know you could go buy a slide, honestly. I remember seeing video of like Muddy Waters and Skip James and stuff using the slide, and I went, I have copper pipe in my garage. I think I can like break a piece off and grind it out, and like did that and started to teach myself slide and figured out how they were tuning the guitars up. And that's what I did from a young age. And it was always like cutting the pipe, taking guitars apart. We had a reel-to-reel in the house, so I'd run through the reel-to-reel into the stereo, which created a delay. So there was actually, it was the first delay pedal I used was the delay of the reel-to-reel to the stereo, which made a quick one-tap delay that I played with. And everything was available, but I seemed to have to find everything through this weird, like kind of old school method that I didn't even know was an old school method. I was just experimenting constantly. And I think all that kind of really built of who I am as a guitar player. I'm quite geary and want to take things apart and experimenty like that still.
Oh, well, no, you just saying that completely sums up why you are how you say with your sound and how you have all your different pedals and everything. It makes sense now for sure. It's like that chasing sound, you never find it. You're always searching for that different sound kind of thing. Makes sense, definitely. That's quite cool. Do you remember that time that we went to the Hare Krishna temple, the George Harrison one?
Of course, the manor out there, it's beautiful. I love it.
It is. And I remember walking around the forest with you that was there, and I could see on your face that you were just like, it was a real moment for you. I could see you just like taking it all in. It was amazing.
I think that was only the second time I'd been out there. I made a record in 2000 with a band. 2000 sounds so weird to say. I made a record in 2000 and I was making it at Olympic and stayed in Barnes there right next door.
I'm going to ask you about that as well.
Super beautiful. I was just totally mystified my first time in the UK, and I get to work at Olympic. And my mixers, I worked with a guy named Mark Spike Stent, and he had just finished up doing like No Doubt and Madonna, and they had literally just left the studio, and he was producing an Oasis record and mix upstairs in Studio A and mixing us in the mix suite downstairs. And I was like bumping into Liam in the lobby. My first time in the UK, I was like 24 years old, and I was thinking, this is, or I don't even know how, I was in my early 20s. I was thinking, this is really amazing. This is like literally some fairy tale situation. Like, wow. But I did take a day when I was out there and took a car all the way out to the manor, which is quite far. It's pretty far out there, in the countryside. And it was just super, it was a holiday. It was just rammed with people, and it was super beautiful. And devotees came and found me and kind of walked me through there. And just being being away from home like that, and running into my people, the devotees like that, it was great. And when we were there too, I was just remembering that time.
Okay. It took you back.
And also just being back. I mean, it's such an interesting thing. I have a spiritual life at home with my family, and we take it pretty serious, and it's a big part of our lives. And to be on the road, it really thrusts you out of that completely. it's like you really have to stay focused and keep your heart clean out there. And so I pop into these temples, especially that one, which is so famous in our movement, it becomes like, um, it's a huge reminder. It lands on your head like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I remember who I am.
Yeah, it balances you again.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
being on the road, like you say, can be very unbalancing. And I was looking again because you, like we said in the beginning, that you guys are always on tour. I looked at your tour coming up and I was like, oh my goodness, they are literally on the road for like 6 months now. I think your tour kicks off end of May or something, doesn't it? And it's like, how do you cope with that? How do you not lose your mind?
Um,
And have you lost your
well,
mind before?
yeah, I mean, I've done pretty well for the most part. I think it's just time away costs you something, and it's a big case of watch what you wish for.
Mm.
You wanna do music, you wanna chase it, you wanna build a career in this business, but I kind of ended up making a family right when I started touring hard. And that's hard because it's no matter how much I love the crowd and playing and how much it's a part of me, it's what I have to do. It doesn't make me miss my children or my lady any less.
Yeah.
It's just there. It's a duality that's constantly there. You know what I mean? So luckily, my children are teenagers now, and they're doing good and they love it. I bring them on the road. That's one way. So if it's summertime, I bring them with me
Great.
because I don't want such a duality that they don't even know what the hell dad does out there. Like, what is it? They know all the crew, they know all the band, and they're like uncles. So everybody loves them and they come out. But I think when I can't have them out there, we're lucky. Like what we're talking on, I'm on my phone. I think you're on a computer, but we have computers and phones. We have screens we can do. Can you imagine before, like in the 90s, even or the 80s and on and all the way back when people were touring and they couldn't do it? And it was hard to even find a phone to talk sometimes. Like, I can't imagine. I mean, you see what's been left in their path. A lot of extra kids and families and disconnect from a lot of these people, and that is nothing I ever wish for. Quite the opposite. I've wished to like keep things as focused as I can. And, you know, I still feel very family first, but that's what I do. I talk to my kids and I talk to my girl every day on the road and
Yeah.
just touch base and be in touch with while I'm in Europe, what time it is here while I'm there, because we're on opposite ends of the clock, and
Mm-hmm.
make sure that I'm calling them before school or when they get out and just feel still connected.
That's good. That's good. And your son, does he want to get into the industry then? That obviously because he was in the music video. Is that kind of where he wants to go?
I think he's all over the place. He's 16 and kind of
Yeah.
just discovering life. He's really into fashion and style, and which is really cool. And kind of getting into like design and stuff like this. But he likes photography. My daughter, the same. She's really into fashion and these kinds of things. So I don't know if he's playing guitar a lot. My son's playing guitar a lot
Oh,
right now.
cool.
My daughter's played a little, and I think my son's just at the point like I must have some natural ability, right, Dad? Like
Come on, I have to have your genes, right? Yeah.
it's in me, right? Like he's like looking for reassurance. Like if anyone can do this, I can do it, right? I'm going, yes, of course. So yeah, they're
Nice
into
work.
the industry a little bit, but they're not thriving in it quite yet. The idea of being professional musicians or models or actors or anything yet.
That's good. They're young. They don't need to be thinking about that stuff just yet, do they? So
I agree. I agree.